Exodus 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. For Joseph was in Egypt already, and Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And all the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over the masters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities. Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because the children of Israel and the Egyptians and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in the brick and in the manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Sinrath, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, When ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew woman, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said unto them, Why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and they delivered ear to the midwives. Come in unto them. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Very interesting. To fully understand Exodus 1, you have to envision a massive cinematic time jump. When you close the book of Genesis, the family of Israel is living the ultimate immigrant dream. They are small, elite clan of 70 individuals residing in Goshen. The most fertile delta country in Egypt. They are heavily protected by the crown because of their brother Joseph is the Grand Vizier who single-handedly saved the global superpower from economic collapse. When you open Exodus 1, centuries have passed. The political environment has completely turned upside down. The dream has morphed into a terrifying, state-sponsored dystopian nightmare. Here is the deep historical, geopolitical, and spiritual context behind the opening page of Exodus. The literary bridge, the census of survival. The book opens by intentionally echoing the closing vocabulary of Genesis. Now these children are named. Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. The author lists the original 11 brothers who migrated down with Jacob, reconfirming the foundational number 70 souls. This is a deliberate literary setup. The narrator wants you to see the jaw-dropping contrast between what the family was, a small, vulnerable, nomadic tent, and what they have become under silent, multiplying blessing of God. Verse 7 drops a staggering, heavy-hitting, five-fold verbal progression to describe their growth. They were fruitful. They increased abundantly. They multiplied. They waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. The specific Hebrew phrasing used here explicitly echoes the original creation mandate given to Adam and Noah. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. This tells the reader that despite living in the foreign empire, God's cosmic covenant purposes are moving forward with the unstoppable runaway momentum. The family has grown into a massive population of millions. Wow, already in Exodus 1, they're in the millions. Verse 8 drops the definitive geopolitical bomb that shifts the entire narrative. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. To understand how the entire empire could completely forget the man who saved their civilization, we have to look at ancient Egyptian history. The prospering era. During Joseph's time, Egypt was ruled by the high coast lineage of foreign Semitic rulers from Canaan who had conquered Lower Egypt. They naturally favored Joseph and his family because they had shared a similar ethnic background. Some time before Exodus 1, native Egyptian pharaohs from the south launched a brutal war of liberation, expelling the Hyksos and establishing a new kingdom. The new king is fiercely nationalistic. The new king is a fiercely nationalistic native Egyptian pharaoh. When he looks at his records, he doesn't see Joseph as a hero. He views Joseph's entire era as a shameful period of foreign occupation. He looks out at his palace window at the millions of Semitic Hebrews living in the strategic northeastern borderlands of Goshen, and he sees a massive, terrifying national security threat. He pitches a xenophobic, populist warning to his cabinet in verses 9 through 10. Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more mightier than we. Come now, let us deal wisely with them, lest ye multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us. Driven by political paranoia, Pharaoh initiates a systematic, multi-phase campaign to subdue and break the Hebrew population. His first move is economic and physical subjugation. He strips the Hebrews of their foreign immigration status and reduces them to state-owned slaves. He appoints a brutal taskmaster over them, forcing them into massive infrastructure projects to construct the royal federal supply cities of Pithom and Ramses. They are forced into grueling, back-breaking labor, digging mortar, baking mud bricks, and working the agricultural fields under the blazing African sun. Pharaoh's goal was to physically exhaust the Hebrews so completely that their birth rates would crater. But verse 12 records a brilliant supernatural failure of social engineering. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. The harder the whips cracked, the faster the Hebrew nurseries filled up. The text notes that the Egyptians were filled with deep, visceral dread. They were grieved because of the children of Israel, furious at his failure. Pharaoh escalates the tyranny, making their lives bitter with hard bondage. When physical exhaustion fails to stop the population boom, Pharaoh shifts his strategy to a covert, localized campaign of genocide. He summons the two head leaders of the Hebrew Guild of Midwives, two women named Sirapha, meaning beautiful one, and Puha, meaning splendid one. He issues a terrifying classified executive order to them in verse 16. When ye do the office of midwife to the Hebrew women, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him, but if it be a daughter, then she shall live. By systematically executing every newborn male, Pharaoh would accomplish two goals: neutralize the future military manpower of Israel and force the surviving Hebrew females to marry native Egyptian men, effectively absorbing their massive wealth, livestock, and lineage directly into the empire. But Pharaoh hits a massive wall of resistance. Verses 17 through 21. Verses 17 through 21 record that Siphrah and Puah feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. They performed the first recorded act of civil disobedience in scriptural history. When Pharaoh drags them back into the throne room to demand why his genocide has stalled, the midwives deliver a brilliant, highly sarcastic piece of cultural defense. Because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and are delivered ere the midwives come unto them. They basically tell Pharaoh, your system is too slow. These migrant women are dropping babies in the fields before we can even unpack our medical kits. The narrator drops a beautiful, ironic piece of literary justice here. The supreme, divine Pharaoh of Egypt is never given a name in the book of Exodus. He is simply referred to by his faceless corporate title. But the two broke, vulnerable midwives who defied him are immortalized by name for all human history. God rewards their bravery by building them stable family houses of their own. Realizing his covert back alley genocide has been thoroughly dismantled by a couple of midwives, a completely unhinged Pharaoh throws off all secrecy. The chapter ends with roaring public decree issued to his entire native population, turning every single citizen of Egypt into a vigilante executioner. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Exodus 1 leaves the covenant family sitting in a horrific, blood-soaked environment. The sacred Nile River, which once symbolized life and agricultural prosperity in Genesis, has been legally transformed into a mass grave of Hebrew infants. The darkness has officially reached its peak, setting the stage perfectly for chapter 2, where a young Levite woman is about to build a tiny waterproof basket, place her newborn boy inside, and float him straight down the Nile into the backyard of Pharaoh's own family. Very interesting.